To now debate with two congressmen on opposite sides of this, even though they're from the same party. Republican Chris Shays of Connecticut and Republican Tom Tancredo of Colorado. Gentlemen, thanks for speeding through the hallways there of the Capitol to get to this interview on time. I appreciate it from both of you. Congressman Tancredo, I'm going to start with you. Jim Sensenbrenner is one of those few who says he still does not support this bill. What do you say?
Well, I hope it's more than a few. I hope that there are going to be enough people to at least make a good statement on it.
Where do you stand?
I don't know that we're... Oh, I'm opposed to the bill. I will be a no vote. And I concur with Chairman Sensenbrenner when he says that what this bill does is to leave open a gaping hole in our security. I can't imagine that this can be spun in any way that could make that an okay deal. And it doesn't make it okay with me because he's absolutely right. If you're talking about this, remember, is the 9/11 Commission report. This is the response to the 9/11 Commission. There's nothing really in this bill at the time, at this present time. There may be some good things in there, and I won't argue that. But really and truly, none of those things that are in the bill deal with the one problem we had that created the 9/11 situation. Nothing deals with that now, and what we did, what the Senate did, was to strike any provision dealing with real 9/11 reform. So I think it's dangerous to pass a bill like this. I wish we would not do it, but I feel that they've got the votes to push it ahead.
Congressman Shays, let me ask you about that statement about the opinion by some that this bill, as it stands, leaves a gaping hole in our security.
Well, I think there's clearly a hole in our security, but it's not a gaping hole. But there would be a much larger hole if we don't deal with the primary need to reform our intelligence. We are not able to detect and prevent terrorist attacks with the bad intelligence apparatus that we have. And so where Tom and I disagree, I don't disagree on the need to do the immigration reform. We disagree on whether we should accept 87% or whatever percent he would suggest instead of 100%, and then deal with what remains to be dealt with. And so I would just summarize by saying we need the intelligence reforms, the first in 50 years, and then on the immigration side, you know, Tom may say we got 20% of what we need. I might say 30%. We didn't get 100%. But that part of it, I know we're going to deal with next year because we'll be able to isolate that one issue, and we'll be able to show where the opposition is. It's in the Senate, and we'll be able to have a very intelligent debate on the issue. And let me just compliment Tom for he has been focused on this issue for years, almost to the extent of almost anything else. And I think he's now getting the kind of attention that will see him have some impact on this important reform.
In fact, Congressman Tancredo has even evoked the ire of the White House. Are they still ticked off at you, Congressman?
Well, let's say that our communications with the White House are limited, pleasant when we do communicate, but they don't go very far.
No invites coming anytime soon. Let me ask you specifically, though, about what Congressman Shea said. Why not just deal with this in separate legislation in January?
Well, I worry about, I've been around here not too long, and certainly not as long as Chris, and so I defer to him in many ways, and I do respect him greatly, because, but I must tell you that I've been around here long enough to know that promises of what we can do in the future are often very difficult to keep. And I trust my leadership. I trust the Speaker of the House and the Majority Leader to push for the provisions that that have been stricken by the Senate. I believe that they will do that. I don't know how supportive the President is going to be of that task, and I don't know how, frankly, how successful we can be with getting the Senate to change their mind. I mean, the Senate is really a problem. They are, many members of the Senate are really in the hands of the immigration lobby, of the open borders lobby. And I don't know how that's going to change between now and, let's say, a couple of months from now. So I certainly hope we can do it, but all I know is this bill is the bill that deals with the 9/11 problem. This is the one it should be in. This is the perfect match for the kinds of things we were trying to do with with border security and with documentation fraud and that sort of thing. So I hope he's right, and I will do everything I can to make sure that that we are successful in the future. But boy, around here, the future can be a long way off.
Congressman Chase, just a quick final question to you. I mean, when Congressman Tancredo says he doesn't see how some of the, the resistance that maybe in the Senate is going to move any, I mean, how do you think that could change to get this kind of...
Well, see, I don't think it will be easier to defeat this bill now and then have to take up intelligence and immigration next year. And by the way, some terrorists may, in fact, in the future be American citizens and not immigrants, not those who are even here illegally. So there are a lot of factors. I think, though, that just focusing on this one issue on immigration next year, I think we'll have some real successes. And we're dealing with two issues. One of them is licenses by states have almost become a national identity card. And I think Tom has rightfully pointed out, you have people who are getting licenses who are here illegally, and that's just crazy.
Okay, one quick final question, gentlemen. There's a member of our audience who wants to ask you a little bit more. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, Congressman. I was wondering how you're gonna check the porous borders that we have. What are you in favor of in that regard?
Well, I can tell you what I'd like to see done, because we've certainly been working on, I have been working on this for, as Chris says, some time. There are two or three things. First of all, we need to we need to actually make sure that there are enough people on that border to begin the actual process of securing it. That means at least double number of Border Patrol, and until we can get that number out there, I would use the military to augment the Border Patrol that's there. I would also use the technology that the military has available to it. The drones that today can do enormous, just amazing things. You do not have to have people on the border arm in arm, to hold people back. You have technology now that can be applied there to help us. The other thing that you can do is to begin enforcing the laws in the United States against employers, for instance, who are hiring people who are here illegally. If you can dry up the demand on our side by going after employers who are breaking the law, then you'll dry up the supply. People will both return home, and we will not have as many people trying to get in. You have to kind of do those things simultaneously.
Gentlemen, we'll check back in with you later after this vote happens, as it's at least expected to. Thank you both for talking to us. We appreciate it.